Good morning, wrestling fans. Welcome to PWR today, January 26th, 2022. The man they call Meathead, and the Matthew Thomas for 2022 of the Matthew Thomases, Matthew Thomas.
Well, that might be the best title you've ever bestowed upon me, Meathead. Thank you for that very warm introduction this January morn.
Well, you say it's a warm introduction. I know that you got a full 10 inches yesterday, and it snowed as well in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, it's a typical Tuesday for me, you know.
Right.
What can I say?
It's my joke right there.
Yeah.
We call that Tuesday.
Well, you never know what it's gonna do here in crazy Colorado.
You got to know what you're driving though, folks. Go ahead and dig up YouTube again. Matthew Thomas in a what were you driving again in the snow the last time?
It was a 2005 Ford Mustang, up to almost 3.5 million views. So
with front wheel drive, right?
Rear wheel drive. I'd probably fared a little bit better if I had front. But no, it was rear-wheel drive, and you can watch a wonderful policeman help push me out, and you can watch the firestorm of comments that that basically resulted from that. I was actually looking through the new comments the other day, and there was one of my favorite comments started, "Well, here in Russia," and then he went on to talk about the driving conditions in Russia.
Yeah, how come you didn't have chains on your tires?
Yeah, well, it's neither here nor there.
I mean, when you're getting ready to train for Ivan Drago, you're supposed to wear chains on your tires.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I learned after the fact.
Matthew, you know what else our listeners have learned over the last couple of years here? One of our favorite people and our number one sponsor. Who are they?
Well, if you you always need to take extra clothes with you in your car in case you get stuck in the snow or like quicksand.
Or you need traction and you need to put something under there.
Or you need traction, and so I mean, you wouldn't want to do that with collar and elbow clothes. What you would do, you would strip down out of your current clothes and then put the actual collar and elbow clothes on so they don't get messed up. And if you want to have a trunk full of collar and elbow clothes, collarandelbowbrand.com, enter promo code Linda K. LINDAKAY. Save yourself 10%, and you can use that to, use clothes for traction, or even buy some kitty litter for some traction. There's all kinds of tricks.
I was going to ask you, have you learned finally how to drive in the snow?
Well, you get a vehicle where all the wheels move, so that's.
So you finally have an all-wheel drive car.
I do. All the wheels just spin at the same time.
And is it a car, or are you actually rocking an SUV or one?
No, it's a car. So the only thing, I mean, the clearance is not that of an SUV or a truck, but it's got the job done so far. So we'll see if that doesn't tend to be the consistent theme, then I'm sure there'll be a video of it somewhere.
Fair enough. You're going to have to see if that same neighbor's in the building filming you being the jabroni that you are.
Yeah, there's no telling what he's filmed.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit of news before we get into NXT for last night. And I want to talk today, before we get moving, it's spring break or break. What is the AEW?
Beach break.
Beach break?
Beach break, because, I mean, that's the thing, man. You associate beach break with being in January in is it Ohio?
I think they're in Cleveland, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
because there's nothing more springtime than Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm really confused about the timing and the name of this. It doesn't make any sense at all to me.
Fair enough. There is a remember Isaiah Swerve Scott?
Mm-hmm.
Hit row. Well, Isaiah Swerve Scott has announced his first match since leaving the corporate umbrella of WWE. He's taken on a former WWE talent as well. Dude, he's wrestling Ruby Soho.
That's one way to make a big splash. My goodness. I mean, that's not going to get lost in the news cycle. It's not him wrestling somebody else that got released that would probably be a good match. He's making a big splash with this.
So Swerve Scott is wrestling Ruby Soho. Folks, I have to say this out loud. Swerve, well, he goes by Shane Swerve Strickland. Swerve is wrestling, a male is wrestling a woman, Ruby Soho.
Hey, it's 2022, man. You can, that stuff happens.
Okay. All right. Well, Ruby just coming off her match. She's obviously in AEW right now, but she had a big match at the GCW at the Hammerstein Ballroom this past weekend as well. So.
And let me throw this out there too. We were talking a little bit about this off air, but my goodness, I mean, we talk about the wrestling industry right now, but you hear of more and more big matches like this from independent promotion making independent promotions
stateside
making the
too.
news cycle.
I mean, because these are the kind of matches that usually showed up in New Japan, or there was somewhere else across the pond.
Well, and where I think it comes from is, you've got the loose agreements with AEW and Impact as far as these people being able to take independent bookings, and I think it draws more interest in active talent that's signed to major promotions to have these indie matches, as opposed to somebody who, I mean, let's face it, a few years ago you had your WWE monopoly who left the WWE, and then you had the various stuff going on the indies, but now you're seeing talent that you see on a weekly basis also doing this stuff on the side. I think it's bringing more eyes to these promotions.
Speaking of the big GCW show at the Hammerstein this last weekend, one of the main events was Matt Cardona. You remember as Woo Woo Woo, Zack Ryder. He is now I wouldn't call him a hardcore icon right now, but he is wrestling in GCW, which is known. Go ahead.
No, that was a cough.
I was going to say he is wrestling in a company known like ECW for its hardcore style, but a company is not 100% hardcore. So, they even had a sign over the weekend that said, "As Matt Cardona wins, we riot." Matthew, did you see the list of people who debuted or appeared at the show, including your personal favorite?
Yes, I did. And, I'm normally not somebody to drop the money on a replay after I found out exactly what happens, but it was the list of the run-ins in this match that is getting me to most likely drop that money on this replay just to see this unfold. It was like 10 names,
just to see your guy unfold,
and to see my guy. My goodness, who would not spend your hard-earned money to see a Virgil run in?
Now, is it true that he was wearing a Vince McMahon rubber mask?
Yeah. Even better. You have this mystery, and then you have the reveal. I gotta think it's got to be up there with Punk's comeback in Chicago.
Okay, it's not, but okay, let's move on. I got one more thing I want to talk about here, and we're going to segue over to AEW, even though this man did wrestle for GCW a couple times and still has a thing going with Nick Gage. It's Jon Moxley, and apparently there's something going on with Renee Paquette, Jon Moxley, who are married, Renee Young from WWE, but they're married, and Bully Ray. Now, SiriusXM has a show called Busted Open, and Bully Ray is a host on there, a co-host on there 3 times a week. They do 6 shows a week. And it smells of a work to me, but Bully Ray's comments on Moxley's promo for last week, and specifically stating that Moxley should have apologized for leaving and saying that he was on alcohol and drug rehab.
Here's the thing to go toward it being a work. I mean, we both listen to that on occasion, and Bully Ray tends to come across as a pretty sharp guy. And this seems like a out of character statement. And it could be that, we go back and listen to it and say, okay, I see that was what was said, but it was said in this context or this, that, or the other. But no, it just seems a little too off.
I'll add more to this. We're going to go back a month, maybe a month and a half. He had a match with Jerry King Waller, and King came on, and King was in total character mode. Yeah. King wasn't himself. Yeah. And Bully and King were both working with each other. Yeah. And when I mean work, I mean it wasn't true, honest, whatever. So the fact that this is now happening, Renee has her own show on SiriusXM, and they've had Renee on Busted Open, and I mean they've worked with each other. They were at an independent show over the weekend as well. I think we're being worked, folks. And they're going to make it as real feeling as it is. I think we're being worked. Is there a possible Bully Ray Jon Moxley match in the future?
And I think that it's possible. And I think that, again, I think this is something you'd see more on a GCW promotion, and that very well might be where it ends up. But I think we are also going into a different era of the industry. You really look at social media and you look at professional wrestling, and really this first part of social media involvement in professional wrestling has almost been, hey, we just play those characters on TV. Here's me on my social media. I understand that I've got this gimmick where I drink people's blood, but look, here's me holding a kitty cat with a child on my social media to remind you.
Or here's me in a pool with a tiger.
Yeah, that I'm not that person.
Selling kale.
Mm-hmm. And I think that we have become
Folks, we're talking about The Undertaker on that one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. Undertaker selling kale. But I think we're into potentially an era now where you're seeing the potential benefit to kind of use this as a way, because people have come to expect for you to be 100% non-kayfabe on social media now, where you can start to kind of put that question there. And this wasn't necessarily a social media thing, but what was it last week with the question going around about Cody's contract?
Right.
And I think that now with social media, with, the dirt sheets, with shows like this, there's a possibility of working people a little bit more
you have to
using
be
this
very
tool.
careful, though, Matthew. You have to be very careful because you've earned that believability.
Right.
Don't go crapping on it right away because, it took you years to build.
Yeah. So we'll see how this shakes out.
So I really do want to see a Bully Ray John Moxley match. I think they could tear it up, and I think that could be a main event for GCW. What kind of match do you think we would see?
Anything with Moxley right now is going to be physical. Anything with Moxley and GCW is going to be very physical.
Yeah,
I hope you don't go. I hope you don't go the full, Nick Gage route. I'm fine with people going through tables and this, that, and the other, but I
just don't have a commercial for Domino's when they're using.
Yeah, and I don't think. With Bully Ray coming up and doing spots here and there, I don't think that's necessarily something he would necessarily want to put him. I'm not speaking for the guy, but right. It wouldn't make that great of a sense. He's got a pretty good gig where he's at, man. Let's give us a solid match, but no need for go Jericho and Gage.
Okay, so let's talk about WWE here real quick before we get into NXT. Linda and I yesterday morning went through who we thought could be the TBAs for the men's and the women's side. You heard mine, you heard Linda's. Folks, let's listen to Matthew Thomas. Give me one each.
One each, male. I'm going to go Braun Breaker.
Okay. He's a TBA. There is a story that says a bunch of NXT talents will be backstage for the Rumble. They should be. They should be there, and they should see how things are handled.
Yeah. And let me just do another one on top of that, too. Braun Breaker might be too obvious, but I think you do see Tommaso Ciampa enter the Rumble as well, too.
I think that was my pick, actually.
Yeah. Those two, and then women's. I'm gonna throw a name out there that I think would be a genuine surprise. It seems like the Rousey thing is like the worst kept secret of the Rumble right now. How about outside of
that was her WWE debut there as well?
Yeah,
she debuted at the end of a Rumble.
Yeah, it was not in the match, but came down at the end.
But she didn't give a damn about her reputation.
No. And here's the thing too, man. Like, let's not take out of the equation, Charlotte's entering the Rumble to choose her contender. You could more or less reenact that, have Charlotte win the Rumble and have Ronda come down and, basically as a homage to her first appearance. I think that's a very, very possible thing. And also look at this too, and I've been strongly considering. I've done more research on Ronda Rousey's pregnancy in the last couple of days than you might be aware of.
Wait a minute. When you say you've researched Ronda Rousey's pregnancy, you're not talking about like the style. Was it a bathtub? You didn't do that, did you?
Yeah, I guess that could affect like recovery and whatnot. So I probably need to go a little bit deeper into that. But no, as you know, the roster's lock on Saturday. So, I'm trying to see if there's any
of the pay-per-view. Yes.
Yeah. If there's any major moves I need to make. Here's the thing. She's 4 months coming out of slinging a child out. And I think her physicality, I think she's going to be there. I think her physicality in the Rumble is going to be limited, whether that means coming in at 30, throwing one person over and winning it, or just stepping out. So it would not surprise me if we had a throwback to how she entered the company, to get her there, but avoid a ton of physicality right now, and then give her another 2 months or so, to get between the birth and jumping in the ring.
I'm uncomfortable with Matthew Thomas researching other people's birth and pregnancies.
Hey, that shows you when you look at the end rankings for this year, and you see Team Nelson Mandela standing on the top of the podium, so to speak, it just doesn't happen by accident. I've learned a lot, and honestly, I had to do a lot of research too when I picked up Becky. So I noticed,
if you win the PWR draft this year, the fantasy draft, I need you to thank Becky and Ronda for their pregnancies. And I'd like to thank my team that found out that Becky was doing Kegels and Ronda was doing Kegels, and they were stronger than ever.
Yeah. And before this year, I may have very well thought like you have a baby and you leave the hospital a couple of days and you just go back and start wrestling, but I found that that's not necessarily the case. And I'd like to also thank, the people that the various females that I've contacted, to ask, how babies come out and
yikes.
and what time, and I think breastfeeding might play into.
Okay, that's enough. All right, I'm calling it. That's the end of that one. Good grief, Charlie.
And if anybody would like more information too, maybe we can do like a full like deep dive episode or something where I explain, where babies come from.
To express your comments and concerns, please reach out to Matthew Thomas on Twitter at @TheRealMThomas. Also, you can find Matthew Thomas on Facebook as well, and make sure that you let him know how you feel about him talking about breastfeeding and vaginal rejuvenation.
Yeah, maybe you're thinking about having a baby, but you're not sure about the whole process or whatever. Like I can give you information as well.
All right, let's move on to NXT because, there's got to be something more comfortable to talk about than what you just did for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's teach their own.
NXT opens up with the Dusty Tag Team Classic. It's MSK and Jacket Time. Did my friend wrestle in his jacket the entire match?
Yeah, he did, man. And I was so excited for this match. This was maybe not for anybody else, but for me, this was the best match to open the show.
Were his hands clean?
I hope so. I was so happy to see Jacket Time out there, and it was a good match. Little disappointed with the outcome. I was really hoping to see, a Jacket Time victory here. Not the case.
Oh no, I see MSK taking on the Grizzled Young Veterans in the finals.
We've been there though. We haven't been to see Jacket Time win the Dusty Cup.
Well, MSK defeats Jacket Time by pinfall, advancing to the semifinals. Santos Escobar promises to challenge Braun Breaker on his time. Santos is not playing, and he is the next challenger for Braun Breaker. We're going to see a lot of this interaction throughout the night.
Yeah, and my goodness, it's no hiding who this guy's daddy is anymore. I mean, they're not going to come out.
They don't say the name, but we know who it is.
Yeah, and it was pretty much, all they talked about. So. We definitely
they said his dad, his uncle, and their terrible skills in math.
So I had to show somebody the original promo, and
it's not about the Steiner Big Papa Pump math.
Yep, yep. And I haven't clicked on it, but apparently there's also a YouTube video where someone actually, like on a fictitious chalkboard, breaks out the equation.
You ever see Scott Steiner on a pogo stick?
It's been a while back, but I've seen that.
Yeah, folks. YouTube Scott Steiner on a pogo stick. No DQ match, false count anywhere. Solo Sikoa taking on Boa. I still feel we should be mentioning Solo Sikoa's name because if the Usos are barred from ringside this Saturday, I think there's a chance Solo shows up.
I hope so. And it can't do anything other than help him out and help his star power. I think that he's had a great premiere in NXT so far, but why hide it, man? I think if anything else, it is going to draw other eyes to that brand to watch Uso brother number 3.
Duke Hudson is not separated from the poker stuff. His Titantron has a bunch of cards on it.
Yeah. At least it wasn't. It was quick and it was a pretty definitive finish.
Yeah, he defeats Raj by pinfall, and then obviously we still have Chen going after Duke Hudson, so there's something new there.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? We're seeing that with Duke Hudson. I know we'll get to Cameron Grimes a little bit later, but wherever we're at with Cameron Grimes, you don't have as much talk about cryptocurrency and money and this, that, and the other, yet you still got the stock ticker when he comes out to the ring. So I think both of these are potentially characters that they are, not doing a strict departure away from, but are kind of coming a little bit out of that gimmick, but it's still at the base there.
Toxic Attraction taking on Kaylee Ray, Indy Hartwell, and Persia Perota in a 6-woman tag. This was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, and I mean, that tends to be the case pretty much anytime Toxic Attraction is out there. I mean, anytime any of these 6 are right there. But, when you really look at this rebranded NXT, and not to steal something from AEW, but, the pillars of that brand, I think Braun Breaker's one. I think Toxic Attraction is another. It's something new and exciting that I think can get eyes on the product.
The Dusty Tag Team Classic, the other side of the bracket. Grizzled Young Veterans, or excuse me, let me do it right. Grizzled Young Veterans taking on Chase U, Grizzled Young Veterans, GYV, heading to the semifinals.
My second disappointment of the night, man. I was really hoping Chase U would pull it out here. This was really the first time I've seen these two work a lengthy match, and I haven't really known what to make of it just because we haven't gotten much screen time. But, man, I like the interplay between these two and also the student section. This really, really clicked for me tonight, and I hope we get to see more Chase U in action.
Okay. Io Shirai took on Tiffany Stratton, and Io Shirai gets the win. And really, you had Zoe Stark in the background saying, hey, I can't be healthy enough for the women's Dusty Cup tournament, so you got to find a new partner. Yeah, no partner. Oh, Io Shirai's way too big for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, she's unfortunately, she had that long title run. I mean, she was basically that Thunderdome, but I guess they weren't technically Thunderdome, but she was that pandemic champion there. And, it's one of those deals where we kind of saw with Ciampa a little bit, or we kind of see with Ciampa where after you have that lengthy title run in NXT, and there's not that main roster call up, it kind of leaves you in a little bit of a strange spot. And I kind of feel like that's where we're at with her right now.
Before we get the number one contender for the NXT North American Championship, we had a young lady come out and perform. Matthew, I've seen more charisma out of a piece of grass. She was singing, you know what, to her credit, you mentioned it before we went on the air. She was singing along to the audio track.
Yeah.
So
there was actually a live mic, and I am much more. I'm a big music fan, but I am much more of a music fan where there is actual live music, meaning live instrumentation occurring. Yeah, and
keyboard, something.
And here's the thing, you look at a lot of your pop tours and this, that, and the other, and I've never really understood why, like, what the deal is with the dancing and this, that, and the other. Last night I understood that, because you're out there looking and it's like, all right, this woman who is singing this song over top of a track, and then
Ollie J, by the way,
we're cutting camera angles to, two gentlemen that were out there. Then we're going to a video package of Cameron Grimes promoting this upcoming match. The visual was all over the place. And, it kind of comes down to it when you've got an artist that is on a very, very produced pop track or whatever genre of music it is. That live performance, you're kind of scratching your head as far as the
hell are we watching?
Yeah, and that was the feeling that I had watching that last night.
But it didn't take away from the match between Cameron Grimes and Tony D'Angelo. Thanks to Pete Dunne going after Tony D, Cameron Grimes is taking his title shot to the moon.
And I think that's going to be the focus of Cameron Grimes in 2022. I mean, we've still got, a lot of that same character there, but there is going to be a focus on getting some gold and taking him a little bit more seriously as a top contender. So, the formula is going to be, can they develop that recipe to where you have got your lovable Cameron Grimes that is a serious contender for gold? And I think we'll see that here in a few short weeks.
So we've got in Cleveland coming up tonight. What was it called again? The Beach Break?
Beach Break.
In Cleveland in January.
So let me ask you this. The only thing I can think of, was this something that was originally scheduled in the springtime there, and with all the pushbacks and stuff due to COVID that got rescheduled, so they're just running with the name?
Because I thought this was around the Jarrett Cruz time too.
Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of.
Let's talk about the matches that are lined up for tonight. We've got Cody returning to take on Sammy Guevara to take the interim TNT Championship against the real TNT Championship. They're going to be using a ladder because they're going to be hanging from above, and somebody's going to have to take down both belts and become TNT Champion.
You got to go Cody here, I think. And I mean, the thing of it is with the interim title, I mean, it was interim for what, a week or 2 weeks?
Ish. Week and a half.
So I don't think that was necessarily in the cards for Sammy to win it back. I can see, I mean, they're going all in with Cody right now. And I think that you tend to lose some of what you're trying to do with Cody if he loses the title. You know, you're not necessarily trying to paint the story of an underdog here. This match looks like it is ripe for some additional interference from Brandy. I mean, we got it with that flaming table spot, and Please
no more flaming table spots, because that means he's going to be flaking his skin all over the place.
No, I've just got a visual, okay? And this is recorded prior to this happening, but I'm just zoning in, and I've got a visual on Sammy climbing the ladder and then Brandy just pushing him off. I think that's what's going to happen.
Wow. We've got a lights out match between Adam Cole, baby, and Orange Cassidy.
Well, I mean, by definition of a lights out match, this has got to close the show. So I'm really intrigued by this. I'm afraid this is going to kind of get into a little bit of that area that you and I are not so fond of as far as ultimate violence and physicality goes. Yeah. The only thing with that, though, Meathead, and why I would be a little bit more intrigued with that than, say, I would, Moxley and Page or Moxley and Danielson or something. We don't typically see Orange Cassidy go that route. Not saying I want it to be a gore fest, but I think there is that potential there to add a different layer to Cassidy's character. So I'm intrigued by this. I could, see this being fantastic, or I could see us watching this through covered hands.
Yep. CM Punk is going to talk. Britt Baker is going to talk. There's a match between Red Velvet and Legit Layla Hirsch, and a trios match. Jericho, Santana Ortiz taking on 2.0 and Daniel Garcia.
Yeah, it's a loaded card, man. And, I will give NXT some credit, too. I don't know if you've noticed it, but the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, about an hour or two prior to NXT, I am getting a card emailed to me. Like, not a greetings card, but, basically tonight on NXT. And it reminds me a lot of the visual of these AEW cards. So, my goodness, I think that is an example of one company doing something right and the rest of the industry following suit. And I'll be honest with you, these matches where I can see the card ahead of time, even if it's no earth-shaking matches, I enjoy it more because it gives me something to, look forward to in my head versus, okay, this is segment 1, segment 2, this is TV time. No, this is a scheduled,
the wrestling show.
Yeah, just think about it. You don't turn into the MLB channel or the NFL channel and teams to be determined. You know who's playing when you are watching the game. And I think that's something that professional wrestling can take away from professional sports.
Absolutely. All right. So, folks, that is the end of us for today. Tomorrow morning, we'll be talking everything AEW Dynamite at Beach Break in Cleveland, Ohio in January. For Matthew Thomas, the man they call Meathead, thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. So long, everyone.